If you don't give the market the story to talk about, they will define your brand's story for you. If you don't give the market a story to talk about, they will define your brand's story for you. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Proudly South African Branding Your Brand Locally webinar. My name is Anile Ndlovu and I will be your facilitator for this interesting but very, very important topic. As a marketing and communications professional, I know the importance of branding and what it means to make your product and service stand out and that people purchase what it is that you are selling to them. So we thank Proudly South African for putting something like this together for us to learn on how to brand our brands locally for our local markets and also so that we can take them out into the international markets. So a lot of you might not know who Proudly South African is. So I'll just give a few sentences so we're all on the same page about our host for today. Proudly South African is the country's official buy local campaign. And it is aligned with the government's objective of combating the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Proudly South African works with the public and private sectors to promote increased levels of local procurement through supply chain structures and with consumers to change habits of everyday store and online purchases. And Proudly South African's clarion call is buy local to create jobs. Today's webinar, as we've said, is focusing on branding, specifically branding your brand locally. And I love what Proudly South African says about this. It's let's get equipped, let's stand out locally. You know, many small businesses in South Africa struggle with branding due to a lack of access to the right knowledge and the right resources. So this webinar is designed to empower SMMEs and business owners with the skills, insights, and strategies needed to build a strong local brand. We will learn how to position our businesses for success and create a brand that truly works for you and a brand that is going to create the jobs our country so needs. We have a lineup of incredible speakers who are experts, I would say, in the marketing and the communications, especially the local brand space. And they're going to share their experiences with us. They're going to share their knowledge and they're going to share their insights. And I hope you'll be able to take from them and use it in your companies and in your businesses as you grow your brand and as you sustain your brand and as you create employment for our people. The first speaker is Steve Jordan. I'd like to just read his brief bio before we get into his chat. Steve is the chairman of AdReach Adopt a Project, who are actively involved with initiatives to uplift communities in the areas of empowerment through sport, developing of SMMEs through the SDI initiatives, and transforming individuals through the waste management chain with wastepreneurs. I love that term, wastepreneurs. Steve also serves as a trustee for SDI, fulfilling his passion and adding value to our communities and creating real opportunities for SMMEs. He comes from a strong marketing and advertising business background, having held the position of sales and marketing manager for AdReach, international marketing manager for Cadbury Schweppes in London, commercial director for Douglas Green Bellingham, as well as spending many years in advertising with Ogilvy as an account director. He has shown his entrepreneurial skill while working with Letati Solutions, providing creative training for SMMEs and vocational skills development. Steve has recently graduated at Henley as a coach and lectured in marketing, sales, and negotiating skills at the IMM Graduate School of Marketing, Vega, and the AAA School of Advertising. So already we have uh, an immense wealth of knowledge that we are going to get from Steve, not just as a marketer, but also as someone who works with SMMEs, which a lot of us are. The topic that Steve will be speaking to is the importance of branding, brand identity, and marketing in South Africa. The importance of branding, brand identity, and marketing in South Africa. Steve, we welcome you and we look forward to what it is that you will share with us.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you very, very much for that amazing introduction. And it's wonderful to be with you all today, talking on our branding seminar. It's interesting. I was actually saying to the team over here, if you look at the subject matter, I mean, we could virtually run a full one-day seminar or webinar on every single one of these. Importance of branding, brand identity, marketing essay, plus all the amazing speakers we've got coming afterwards that are going to be giving us some pearls of wisdom. But wonderful initiative, proudly South Africa. Thank you very, very much. I can remember when I was a lightie growing up in Kroonstad. My dad was very, very friendly with one of the big farmers, which had a huge farm just near Viljoenskroon. And we always used to go there for lunch on a Sunday. And I can remember arriving there one Sunday, and there was a huge commotion on the farm. There were cattle being herded into this pen. There were dogs barking. But the thing I remember more than anything was this pungent smell of sulfur and burning hair in the air. Chris, I asked, what are they doing? And he said, we're just branding the newborn calves. I said, with this, he showed me the branding iron that they used in order to brand the calves with. It was this red hot fire. The branding iron was in the fire, and the poor unsuspected calf had this plunged into his rump in order to give him that logo and that branding. I said, geez, Chris, naam Chris, man. But why? From then followed my first lesson from Chris on branding in the middle of the Vrystaat, never visualizing that branding would become such an integral part of my life, of my future, of just really everything you do in life is about brand. Brand who you are as an individual, your brand, your service, everything that you offer. Thank goodness the need for branding of calves or whatever it is hasn't changed. But with the onset of technology, the methodology used in order to brand the calves has changed dramatically. It's now just a little electronic chip that's put into the calf's ear. But on that is all the brand information for that particular calf. His mom, his dad, where he comes from, has he had foot and mouth, hasn't he? Absolutely everything is now encapsulated in this one little chip on the calf's ear. And technology has influenced all of us in terms of how we brand and where we go to in terms of the branding. When Chris then explained to me, branding is what differentiates each calf from the next. And even in business, that is exactly the same thing. It's that branding that differentiates you from your competitors and differentiates your service, your brands from the rest of the herd. I mean, what branding does is create brand equity. And a strong brand equity is what helps increase the perceived value of your brand, but as well as the real value of your brand. It influences your pricing strategy. It also helps increase your loyalty, your customer loyalty, and your user loyalty. The competitive edge that branding gives you is that you're not just a service anymore, you're not just a commodity. Through branding, you stand out a little bit like the branding on the calf's rump. You're not just one of the herd anymore. And that is why branding is so absolutely critical. With the critical role that SMMEs will play in the future growth of the country, the challenge is now to build your unique identity. I mean, it's forecast that 90% of all new jobs in this country are going to come from the SMME sector. And if you're part of that, it's going to be busy. And you've got to be busy building that brand, ensuring that you are unique. And the service you offer, who you are, is unique. It was quite interesting. I was having a look 35 years ago in the USA, 71% of the entire civilian workforce were employed by the federal government. At the end of last year, 2024, that 71% was down to 18%. With Trump and his chainsaw wielding musketeer, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not down to 10% by the time the Easter Bunny pitches up. It's just getting totally condensed. 80% of all of the jobs now are in the service industry. And we see in South Africa exactly the same trends are happening and at the same speed. And that is why your brand identity, your branding is going to be so important. The herd that you are operating in as an SMME is getting big. It's getting huge. And with that growth, the need for you to stand out, the need for you to have that unique identity becomes absolutely critical. If you look at government jobs, they're declining. You're not going to you're not going to find a job with them. Corporate jobs are declining. And it's the SMMEs and the self-employed that are growing in importance. And that's where it's so important for you to ensure that you've got a great brand. Looking at brand identity, being distinctive, not just another service provider. Your name must be distinctive. If you're a transport agency, a transport company, don't just call yourselves JP Transport. Have a name that's that's memorable. I don't know, Balaga Transport. If you're a garden service, you're not just a little garden service down the road. Have a name, be memorable, be blooming good garden services. It's little things like that to just make you memorable. From a visual point of view, have a strong logo. Your colors must be powerful. Make sure that your staff have got your logo, that they've got your colors, your transport, all those little things that build you as a total brand. Verbally as well, you must talk your brand. Your staff must talk your brand. And hopefully every one of your customers must talk your brand. They must all share the brand values that you know and that you keep transmitting from a verbal and from a visual point of view. From an experiential point of view, the experience that each of your customers has dealing with you, that experience must also be an intricate part of your brand. Brand identity actually encompasses every single thing, every single interaction you have with your customer has got to express that experience that you are offering them. You've got to be ahead of the curve. You've got to be ahead of the herd. You can't just be one of the herd. Understanding your market, your consumers and your customers, their wants, their needs is critical in today's market. And that becomes part of your brand. You can't just have a gut feel. Okay, this is what I do and this is what everybody wants. Truly understand exactly what it is that they want. I mean, I had a classic example a little while back, solar energy. I mean, probably the biggest grudge purchase that I think I've ever made in my entire life. I eventually decided, geez, I need this. I wasn't excited about getting quotes. I really felt this was a waste of bucks. It was money that I didn't really want to spend. Then through word of mouth, I eventually contacted the company that everybody was saying, Steve, these are the blokes to go with. For that last and final bloody quote, I thought, let me get this thing done with. The bloke arrives at my doorstep and he says to me, why do you want solar? I looked at him, I said, China, you dwarf. That is load shedding, man. Of course I want solar. He says, no, why do you genuinely need solar? And then they started analyzing everything about me. My usage pattern over the past 6 months of electricity, the last 24 hours of usage. When does your geyser run? At what temperature is your geyser running? What is your water usage? How big is your geyser? When is your swimming pool run? What size is your swimming pool motor? I mean, they started analyzing every little bit of my electrical usage. I mean, stuff I hadn't even thought of. I just took for granted. Now I start kind of saying, this is, and he's got me, he's got my attention, kind of saying, wow, this is interesting. My unique needs are then analyzed and recommendation is made on how many panels he thinks I need, what type of inverter, what type of storage capacity of the battery, and he goes through the whole interface of how city power is going to work in relation to the solar and how that's going to work in relation to the battery when your battery is needed. You're now learning new stuff, geez, you've never ever learned before. I'm going, yeah, this is interesting. These blokes are all over my house. They're on my roof. They're taking photographs. They're in my garage. They're taking photographs of my garage. They're into my electrical box, absolutely everything. Eventually, the quote's presented. And here these beautiful photographs are with the solar panels beautifully superimposed onto my roof. That's what it's going to look like. The battery, the inverter superimposed on my garage wall. That's what it will look like. And with the net result, I'm kind of like buying into this. Eventually signed the quote and I say, okay, now we're cool. They arrive on the installation plan. There's exactly who's going to be part of the installation, the ID number of every installer, the timing, and everything went like absolute clockwork. I mean, it was, as I say, a grudge purchase turning into an interesting purchase. And I must be honest, by analyzing, by going what they've said, I have actually saved money, which surprised me, which was absolutely great. This must have been on probably just on about 2.5, 3 years ago. I got a call at the beginning of this year from them saying, by the way, Steve, how's it going? Filled me in on how my solar was working. He said, just wanted to let you know that we're also doing water tanks. And I said, no, that's clever. So popped in, got a quote, haven't put water tanks in, but it was exactly that same seamless process. And I mean, I'm dwelling on this a bit because it's more than just your identity, your brand, what it looks like. It's that delivery to your customer that is so critical and so absolutely important in terms of building your brand overall. If you take marketing within South Africa, in the same way as the branding of the car has changed dramatically, so has the marketing scene within South Africa on a worldwide basis. Online presence is absolutely critical now. You need that website. You need to be on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, need to have WordPress, but it's because that is your wide connection with the world. If people are looking for a service, that's where they're going to look for it. And you've got to be part of that. It's essential, and it doesn't cost a fortune. I mean, you can go onto AI. This is where AI can really be your friend. There is a huge amount that you can see and you can learn. It's a one-page website. It doesn't have to be huge and intricate, but you want to be present. You want to be part of that new world. You then need to integrate your marketing to be part of your consumers' daily lives. It's almost like you've got to engage with them in their daily lives, not only on the internet. You need to have a deeper connection with them, that when they go out into the street, that they see your brand. That whether it be out of home, whether it be on street pole ads, whether it be through leaflets. I mean, a great example of that was recently the legislation changed in terms of your car warranty. If you didn't take your car to your car dealership under warranty and you went somewhere else, you lost your warranty. That changed. And you had suddenly, it opened up this huge market for your qualified car mechanics. You had companies like the Garage phone starting up. Now, the Garage is just this amazing, it's amazing kind of mechanics shop where you can take your car, get your service all legally and all the rest of it. Now they've engaged with their market, not only with a great name, the Garage. Where do you take your car to be serviced? I take it to the Garage. When is your car due for service? And I'm taking it to the Garage. But they use leaflets. You've got blokes dressed in their mechanics uniform on the street corner, giving you the leaflets, giving you the pamphlets, latest specials, and all the rest of it. Plus, they've got an online presence. And I mean, it's using that opportunity in order to build your brand, but also to be part of the local community that you're operating in. They can see you, that you're part of it, using every bit that you have in order to promote your brand as strongly as you can. As mentioned, we are a bright, colorful country. Make sure that your brand, your colors that you use are bright, they're colorful, and they also are, that they've got to be incredibly memorable. Become part of your community, just very simply, just through whether if there's a park run in your area, just have a little seconding table selling your service at the park run. If you're the fate, have a look at doing a cleanup, have a look at whatever it is, have your pamphlets available, be there, absolutely everything, everywhere you can, where your target market is. People must be bumping into you where at the unexpected kind of place. Give back with a twist, be part of your community. It's interesting if we look at the AdReach Adopt a Project. I mean, AdReach started, 25 years ago as a public-private partnership, putting adverts on street pole ads, selling to corporates, and with that money raised, it paid for the electrification of Soweto in the late 1990s, and also the electrification of Alex. Now, that adopter philosophy has continued. There's a percentage of all of the advertising fund that gets plowed back into the community for the good of the community. And it's important. You've got to be part of your community in order to grow and not just be just another service offering. Be part of South Africa, be part of the Heritage Days, the 24th of September, be part of our special holidays that we have. Let people see you, let you be associated, be part of Mandela Day. Just your brand must always have those numerous touch points. To be clever in terms of building your brand doesn't have to be expensive. The cleverer you can be, the more, I believe, branding, the stronger your image can be. Box clever has got to be the answer. Take time to ensure that you are ahead of the herd and you're unique in terms of your own brand. Don't get so bogged down about being in business that you forget about building your business and building your brand. Thank you very, very much. Been awesome spending the time with us, and yeah, looking forward to the rest of the seminar. Thank you. That's me, over and out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. That was very invaluable and educational. And it also just reminded me of the importance of branding. I would like to share just a few things that I wrote down from what you said as a summary and just highlights that stood out for me. And I'm hoping that it will also resonate with our guest today. Branding is everything. You are a brand, your business is a brand. Branding is what will differentiate you from other companies and your competitors. Through branding, you stand out. You are no longer a commodity, but a leader and expert in your sector. Your brand will grow your loyalty, your customer base, your revenue. Your name must be distinctive and memorable, a name that will speak to you and your vision. Your logo must stand out and represent you without you saying a word. And importantly, your service delivery is critical in building and sustaining your brand. Online presence is also very important. You need to be online to reach your customers and grow your brand equity. And then integrate all your marketing efforts so your customers interact with you online and offline. And then your last point, be clever in building and sustaining your brand. And as you said, a lot of people get so stuck in the business part of it that they forget that in order for them to get the clients and to be known, there has to be a brand behind the service and the products that they offer. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. We're now going to move on to our second speaker, Unomzamo Mwalusi. She is the marketing and communications manager at Prime Media. And I'd like to just read her brief bio so we know who she is and why she's here, because I do believe Proudly South African invited these great speakers because of the knowledge that they bring and that they're going to share with us. Nomzamo brings over 10 years of experience crafting and executing impactful marketing campaigns across diverse industries: financial services, real estate, advertising, and transportation. She brings a wealth of experience in marketing strategy, communication, and branding management to her current role as marketing and communications manager at Prime Media Outdoor. Throughout her career, she has worked for various brands such as Investec, Train, Red Bull, and Ogilvy, one of the largest advertising agencies in South Africa. She excels in collaborating with teams, developing comprehensive marketing plans, and showcasing brand value propositions effectively. Her expertise spans across brand management, communications, PR, and stakeholder management. Utilizing data-driven insights, Nomzamo has experience in crafting captivating campaigns that convert audiences into customers, contributing demonstrably to the organization's success and ensuring measurable results for the organization. What I love about her bio is that part where the campaigns converts audiences into customers, and that's what we would want, for the brand, for our branding, for our marketing efforts to convert the people that we interact with to become customers. Nomzamo's topic is defining and building your local brand. Defining and building your local brand. Nomzamo, over to you.
Good morning, Anela. Thank you for that intro. So weird sometimes when somebody reads your bio, you're like, are you talking about me? But thank you so much. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Nomzamo Mwalusi from Prime Media Out of Home. I do want to share a little bit about how you define and build your local brand. It's something I'm quite passionate about and something I do every day. I'm honored to be here, and I'd like to say thank you to Proudly South Africa for having this very important initiative and conversation. So when we speak about defining your brand or defining your brand identity, what do we mean? So for me, I think it's about what is at the heart of your brand. So what is at the heart of your brand? What are you trying to solve for? And who are you speaking to? As marketers and as business people, I think we're all very familiar with the talk or the video from Simon Sinek, which is called Start With Your Why. That is I'm sure you've watched it more than once because there's so many great points in that TED talk. But just to give you a summary, the broader concept revolves around the idea that people don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. So it's very important that when you're defining your brand, you are defining the why, defining the purpose, defining the reason to believe, and more importantly, the reason you wake up every day to do the work that you do. he does speak about how it's important for your brand or organizations to start to communicate outside, well, inside in, not outside in. So you don't start by communicating on what you do or how you do it, but rather why you do it and what those reasons are for you. The takeaway, I think, from that is, just understanding that it's not just about the products and services that you are selling, but more about, what do you stand for? What are the values you stand for? And who are the people you're trying to solve their problems for through your products and services? So for us at Prime Media, I think it's also important that we always think about, who are the people we're serving? What is the reason, or what are the pain points, and what is our reason for them to believe in us? And I think I always believe that we interact with our customers online, offline, as you mentioned, Anele, that it's the online and offline interactions you have with your customers that are very important. In our industry, we engage with our audiences sometimes in real time. We get feedback from our customers in real time. So it's important to understand that their pain points will feed into what our why is. Of course, we speak about knowing your audience. Who is your audience? Who are they? What do they think? What do they feel? What do they believe in? What are their pain points? South Africa is a very unique country in that we are not one monolithic audience. We all have different cultures, backgrounds, languages, likes, dislikes, preferences. So it's also important in defining your brand, understanding who those people are. If you are serving a specific niche, it's to understand who are those people, what in that niche are you trying to address in that market. So often people think about language and think, I have to communicate in English or I have to communicate in a specific way. Yet your brand might be unique and your brand might be different. So as we see with many brands, a brand I love so much, which is Nando's, they're very quirky. They don't always communicate in English. Sometimes they use local slang. Sometimes they use kind of Twitter language or TikTok language or very local slang. And I think when we think about knowing your audience, it's important to understand how to connect with them, how to speak with them in the most authentic way that your brand can speak and reach your audience. Authentic connections are the bedrock of a thriving brand, especially in a noisy, digital, and cluttered world such as this. Genuine connections are really important in defining your brand. I think the 3 points I want to share about your audience as well is to listen actively to your audience. So it's very important to find out where and how your audience feels about your brand. So you can plug in online on social media. You can find out, what is the sentiment of my brand? Do people think I'm great? Do people think I'm not great? Do people need more, service from me or more, touch points to interact with my brand? So listen to your audience actively and value their feedback. Where you can, action their feedback. Consistency in messaging. Audiences want to know that. Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Audiences want to know that, you are listening and valuing their feedback. They want to know that you're prioritizing them and that you are actioning the feedback that they are giving you. When your audience feels seen and heard, they are more likely to connect more deeply with you. They're more likely to feel understood. They're more likely to feel that they would ultimately buy your brand. In our industry, we do engage with customers on various platforms, and often we are engaging with them in real time. When you think of your brand and building your brand, you need to understand those evolving needs and preferences of your brand. So knowing their pain points, as I mentioned, is very important. I do also want to share, just in knowing who your brand is and the language and the nuances to use. Another brand I love so much is Naked. Naked Insurance is doing so well, just in the sense of using language and using terminology and simple messaging on their billboard viral campaign, where you see things that you can relate to, that you can chuckle to, such as, Busiso got naked at the Christmas party, or Anele got naked at the office party. So there's some of those very quick, quirky and relatable messaging that you can use to kind of understand your audience. The next one that I think is quite important is delivering exceptional customer experience. So we do live in what people call the experience economy. And what that means is, so often now we have a lot of touch points with brands, And we live in a place where it's not just about the products and the services that we use, but it's also about the experience that we get from the brand. So as you are building your brand, think about what kind of experience you would like to offer to your consumer. So not only once they've bought once they've purchased your product, but even after they've purchased your product, what experience are they getting after? So are they able to contact you for perhaps any customer queries, or are they able to contact you for any improvements or feedback? And even when they do contact you, in what way are they experiencing your brand thereafter? Do you have a call center? Do you have an email address? Do you have somewhere where they feel that they can share their concerns or even compliments perhaps with you? So when thinking about building that brand and creating a memorable brand, always think about how you can create those engaging experiences for your customers. It is about creating personalized experiences. We often think about how something can speak to you, and you don't feel like marketing should be like a broader thing that feels like it's not a personalized experience for you. So when you build a brand, think of one person in mind. Yes, you will have millions of consumers or millions of customers, but think about Nomzamo, think about Anele, think about that one customer that you would be serving, and how would Anele experience my brand? Because brands today have to go beyond transactions. It's not just about the purchase or the product being sold, but fundamentally about building that personalized experience. If you think about brands like Discovery, and you think about brands like Superbalist and Woolworths, and brands that are really personalizing their communication, they're doing it so well that they know when next you need to buy your next loaf of bread. They know you so well, they know that when you're going to the gym next, or when you want to travel next. They know you so well that they know that you want to buy a dining table. So as a brand, and as you're building and defining your brand, think about, how do I personalize my brand? How do I know about my customers, and know the life stage that they are in? So do I know that this is a mom? Do I know they need to travel 30 kilometers to get to work? Do I know that they need to, still do their shopping after work? So know who your customer is, know their pain points, and meet them on their journey so that you can make it as seamless and easy for them to interact with your brand. So in South Africa, I think what's important is we do have a local culture, of course, and heritage and traditions, and we do have a unique landscape that we operate in. So it's important for you to also understand that in building your brand and creating that experience or that brand experience, it's important to make it so personalized that that person feels like you are speaking to them or speaking with them, perhaps, and making those everyday interactions into extraordinary memories. One of the big industries that we participate in, and the industry that we support, is in the local arts and culture industry. The creative industry it's booming. I mean, if in the past week you've been on social media, you've seen just how great South Africa has been on a global stage, such as the likes of Black Coffee. Makossa had a show recently, a fashion show in Paris recently. So the arts and culture space, from a local brand perspective, has actually just grown into a global phenomenon. I mean, Amapiano obviously goes without saying, but we really have to think of, not only from a local perspective, but how do we take our local brands to a global platform? Because who we are, our culture, our sound, our color, our everything that you feel and see about South Africa actually is so unique that it is now being taken to a global level. The next one, which I think we spoke about as well earlier, which was about your visual identity. So in defining and building your local brand, so I often say, keep it simple, keep it simple. So if I see, like a small business or an agency or anybody who's trying to present their business idea or pitching a proposal to us, I always say, keep it simple, keep your colors simple, keep your logo simple, keep your name simple, because we really are in such a cluttered and bombarded environment. We get bombarded with millions of messages, millions of kind of online messages and visuals and all sorts of things. So to stand out in that kind of environment, and we are in such a competitive marketplace, find a way that you can build your brand to be simple, to be rememberable, and more importantly, I often do say that it should say what you do. So we don't always have to think about these fancy names and these fancy things and these fancy slogans and taglines. Yet we can just kind of say that this is what I do. It's a cleaning service, or it's a fashion line, or this is what it is. And using a name that represents you, is core to your business, and is as authentic as you believe it is. Be brave and stand out. So I think we're in a time where creativity has no limits, has no boundaries. We have, AI. We have all this tech available to us. We have really the world is our oyster. Be brave and stand out. If you believe that what you're selling is ultimately really at the next level, then be brave and stand out. One of the things in building your brand or your visual identity is sometimes you can fail. Sometimes it starts, you can start your brand or your logo off as red, and maybe you feel that, okay, red might be, doesn't really address your market as well as you'd like it. You can change and tweak it and turn it into maybe something else. And I think that's fine. But I think when we fail and we fail forward, it shows that we're being brave. We're testing the market, and we're learning, and we're adapting our brand. So I think that's also important in building your local brand. You can fail, but you're just you're failing forward and you're doing better, and you're putting yourself out there. So I do encourage you to be brave and think about brave things, and kind of go for it. I did speak about Naked already as one of the brands that I love so much, but I think Pineapple as well is doing quite well from an insurance perspective. Another brand I love so much as well, as I say, is Apple, and that's not a local brand, but it's a very big brand that I think a lot of marketers always refer to in the sense of their consistency, their visual identity, but to the point that you don't actually need to see the word Apple. You don't need to see the word, Mac, or you don't need to see the word, AirPods. You kind of already identify the brand to the products, the way the product is designed, from the way the usage of the product, from the service you get, the customer experience you get. So they've built a brand that is so bold and so consistent that without seeing the name, or without seeing the logo, I guess, is the Apple, but without seeing the name and seeing kind of something written about what the product is, you're able to identify that this is an Apple product. And I think this is the kind of the dream or the epitome of most brands. And as you're building your brand, identify a brand that you inspire to be like, or that you think is kind of ticking the boxes for you, and kind of use those guidelines to say, I'm building a brand and these are the things I'd like to see in my brand. So I'd like my brand to be seamless or quirky or modern, or maybe an accessible brand. So find ways that you are building your brand personality or your brand values aligned to who you are, or who your company represents. I've already touched on this point, but again, this was about connect with your audience on a more localized level. So often I say language is one of those. So the use of relevant language is very important in defining your brand. We have 11 official languages, so English does not have to always be the first means of communication. Yes, it does reach a wider audience, but sometimes there's local slang that could work better, or perhaps a way that you can connect with your consumers in a more authentic and genuine way. Because I do think that there are brands that have done it so brilliantly, such as Savannah, Chicken Licken, Nando's, who really just use local slang to kind of connect to their audiences in a quirky way, especially if your audiences, which I think a large part of our audiences are online, they really have a short time to capture your brand or capture your messaging. So it's always quick to kind of get that one word or that one part of your campaign stuck in the mind of your consumer. So when you think about language, think about it in a way of connecting with your consumers in a genuine and authentic way, and a way that resonates with South Africans. South Africans, we're funny, we're quirky, even amidst load shedding and potholes and robots not working and water outages and all that's happening just currently in our market. Consumers still have a sense of humor and a way of connecting with their favorite brands, even amongst the challenges that we're facing. Something that we also do pretty well, and I guess we are in the media space, so storytelling is very important to us. So storytelling about who we are as a brand, storytelling about the people that work within your organization, storytelling about the people who make your products come to life. So you'll see so often on social media, people do a lot of behind the scenes, people do a lot of get ready with me, or a day in the life of a media producer, or a day in the life of a fashion designer. I think people like to hear stories, but more importantly, it helps people connect with your brand. You want your brand to be relatable. So when building and defining your brand, not only do people want to see the products and services that you are offering, but people also want to know who are the faces and who are the people behind this brand. So who are the people who made and brought this brand to life? So often people want to know who the CEO is and what the CEO does in the weekend, and what are they doing behind the scenes. But not only the CEO, what are the people behind the scenes doing? What are the operations people doing, or the production people doing, and the people who actually bring this product to life. So when we think about sharing personal stories, it really humanizes your brand. It really helps it become relatable to your audience. So I would really, urge everybody to, as you're building your brand, share your success stories. You could also share when where you started, where you are now. Share those success stories, customer testimonials, the journey of your brand. And we see that with the likes of the shoe brand that I like as well, a local shoe brand, Batu, a gentleman called Theo, who also shares his story, shares where he started and how he then got his local or global international shoe brand to where it is now. And it humanizes and makes your brand relatable to the people who will then consume your product. So I think because storytelling is also so important to us as South Africans from a culture perspective, from a tradition perspective, I think generally storytelling has a big part in who we are as a community. I think it's also important to find a way that your story is also being told about your brand, especially for just building an authentic and engaging narrative. I think the last part that I wanted to share was that you are in a saturated, or all of us are, big, small, medium organizations. We're all operating in very competitive and saturated marketplace. So in this time, I think it's also important to think of what are the best ways that you can broaden your brand and fundamentally convert a customer. And I think that is what everybody wants to know. How do I get the customer to actually pay in the end? And I think so often we don't collaborate as much as we should. So we don't often explore ways that we can partner and collaborate with other brands, and not constantly be thinking that this brand is a competitor, or this person won't help me, or this brand won't help me. But to find people, one, within your network, so people perhaps in the short term, find people in your network that you can partner with. Secondly, I would also say find brands that you potentially look up to or inspire to kind of be like, and reach out to somebody that to say, okay, well, I'm a fashion designer brand. Maybe you're a DJ or you're a musician. Is there a way we can collaborate to create an experience? Is there a way we can collaborate to create something that can elevate both of our brands? So I think we're in a time of interesting collaborations, interesting partnerships. We're already seeing, airlines and food brands joining together. We're already seeing, Checker 60 doing amazing things from a partnership and collaboration perspective. So I think don't limit yourself as a brand to just your industry or just your line of work. And think of, okay, yes, I might be just a logistics company, but maybe I could partner up with a media company, or I could partner up with the fashion line, and maybe there's some synergies that we can build in elevating our brands. So I definitely think that this is the time of thinking out the box. This is the time of collaborations, partnerships. South Africa is is really in such a unique place to be. So I really want us to say that: tell your story, make it true, make it compelling, and make it relevant. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nomzamo, for that detail. Always, always important. I just want to share a bit of, okay, let me take, Alicia has her hand up. Yes, Alicia?
Sorry,
Hi, Alicia.
Hi. Sorry,
Hi.
Chairperson. I think we have a bit of a lag today across all our internet channels, but I thought should ask a question before we move on to the next speaker. So I head up the membership department at Proudly South African, and has someone that has over almost 3,000 members in our portfolio or our database. I mean, Nomzamo's presentation was amazing, but I just want to touch on brands that have amazing brand equity based on the communication out into the public. But oftentimes I find that the communication, when you're a large corporate company and you have, large brand portfolio, you are able to take risk and you're able to do stuff like, say, what Pineapple does. But within a membership database and with largely an SME portfolio of members, I just want to ask Nomzamo about the risk of in order to grow brand equity. I know we must be able to communicate fantastic ideas, but I don't think SMEs can really go the Nando's or Pineapple route just yet, because I think whatever communication they put out still needs to bring them not just brand equity, but a return on investment, especially at that stage of a business. So what is her advice for SMEs, in terms of risk? I don't know if that question translates clearly or.
It does. It does. Thank you for the question, Alicia. So I think in that aspect, yes, there are very few brands such as Nando's, Pineapple, as you mentioned, Naked, those kind of brands that can be quite brave. But as you're mentioning about your members or as about SMEs, I think one of the challenges that you are facing is standing out. One of the challenges you're facing is, how do I stand out from the next printing company, or how do I stand out from the next, whatever, maybe you're a gardening service. How do you stand out from the next 10 other people who are doing the same thing from you? And I think that's where the challenge kind of lies. So perhaps the being brave and the reputational risk does have a scale, so obviously Nando's and Naked are up there on the scale of, they've taken it to like a 10. But as you, as an SME or as a small business owner, you have to decide that, well, for me, what does this mean, and what are the problems I'm trying to solve for my customer? But even in my risk, and even in my humor, or in my maybe a bit of being risky on my communication, what do I hope to get out of it? Because I think your objective might just be brand awareness, or your objective might just be to kind of at least get to be on the top of mind of your consumer. It might be worth then being risky, because fundamentally, for you to get the ROI, you need to stand out so that your consumers remember you and purchase products from you. So I hope that answers you.
I am answered. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairperson.
Right. Thanks, Alicia. Thank you for answering that question, Nomzamo. If anyone else has questions, you are welcome to write them in the chat and just say which speaker you would like to pose the question to. Before we move on to Amanda, I just wanted to, like I did with Steve, is I was just taking a few notes from Nomzamo's, I was going to say delivery keynotes, but from what she shared with us. And I think it also speaks to how she answered Alicia's question. You start off, Nomzamo, by saying, what is at the heart of your brand? Why did you start your company? So remembering that and answer that why. Your brand is more than the product or service. Your brand is about your vision, your mission, your purpose. And South Africa is a diverse audience. Know your audience, know who your brand speaks to. Authenticity is key when defining and building your brand. Actively listen to your audience, deliver exceptional service experience. And as you build your brand, think about the experience you want your customers to have. Will customers have a positive and memorable experience with your brand? And also, in building your brand, keep your brand identity simple. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Be authentic, be brave, stand out, and be outstanding. Build a brand that is bold and consistent. And then lastly, tell the story behind the brand and the people who bring the brand to life. Thank you so much for those nuggets and pearls of wisdom. We are moving to our third speaker, Amanda Spear. She is the brand manager at Branding Africa. Amanda Spear is an award-winning entrepreneur, lead strategist, and founder at Branding Africa, a brand consulting agency operating in South Africa and Uganda with the aim of enabling African businesses to achieve sustainable growth through effective strategy. With a decade of experience as an entrepreneur, she believes that the key to growing the African economy lies in developing the minds of those who will create sustainable African brands that represent innovation on the global stage. Ms. Spear's entrepreneurship and brand building experience has allowed her to work with a range of big and small brands across borders. She delivers talks and conducts workshops on branding, entrepreneurship, mindset, and shifting brand perception with a focus on African entrepreneurs. Amanda is a 2022 Mandela Washington Fellowship alumni, a flagship program of the US government's Young African Leaders Initiative, established in 2014 by President Barack Obama. She also won the 2023 Rising Star Award for the Santam Woman of the Future Awards in association with Fair Lady and True Love. I think it's so fitting to have Amanda go kind of lost in this discussion because she brings in the being the entrepreneur and also being in branding. So I love that about what and love what she to hear what she's going to say in terms of merging these two together, changing the brand perception and taking our brands as local brands onto the global stage. Amanda, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anele. When you read that profile and that bio, I think it's the same as Nomzama. I'm like, who is the person you're talking about? Is that me? But I think the one thing that Steve and Nomzama really spoke about, Steve said something like, you can serve your consumer better when you know them. And Nomzama also said, which is something that you spoke about as well, in terms of listening actively, but also actioning feedback from your consumers. So I think the golden thread among both the previous speakers was really focused on the people of the brand and the people who you're trying to serve as a brand. And I will literally be, taking a leaf from them as well and speaking about the same thing when I talk about the psychology of attraction in branding and localizing content. You cannot localize anything or try and psychoanalyze anything if you don't realize the people who you are speaking to. So briefly yesterday, I just had a couple of conversations with a couple of my friends speaking about what does local is lekker mean to them. So I'm going to post that question here as well. And you can just put it in the chat box there and just let me know from your point of view, what does local is lekker mean to you? Like when someone says that to you, when you hear it, when you see it on a billboard, when you see it in a store, what does that actually mean to you? So I'm very curious about what everyone thinks. And then I will show you what some of my friends said local is lekker means to them. And as I see someone says, like, what does local is lekker mean to you? I'll just share my screen as well, just to show you what some of my friends said. Some of them, I couldn't fit everyone in here because they had a lot to say. But one of my favorite ones is Bibrelo saying that chicken leg can rock my soul with cream soda and peri chips. Local is lekker to her is an actual meal, which speaks about, and she's currently not even living in South Africa, but it's a taste of home in essence. Victoria said it's nice to be here, to eat here, to enjoy here. And that also speaks to what people think about this country as a whole. And of course, the country is so wide and the cultures are so wide as well. So you can't necessarily just say one opinion is the opinion of all South Africans. But you can see from what different people said, the phrases we use that no one else will understand. They call it football, we call it diski. There's such differences in how people experience local, and local means something totally different to different people, which takes me to really the psychology of branding, in essence, the psychology of attraction. If you want to understand the psychology of anything, you have to understand the people who you're trying to psychoanalyze, or you have to really understand who you're speaking to in essence. So the cornerstone for me, the cornerstone of psychology is people. The cornerstone of branding in the same way is people. And I wanted to actually do it practically so that you can see what people think local is. When they say local is lekker, what does it mean to them? And I think even if you would go through the chat box, you will realize people have different opinions of what local is like it means to them, in essence. And like I said, the psychology of attraction starts with knowing who you want to attract, and localizing your content also starts with knowing who you want to localize it for. And if you were to take an example for any brand, really, a beauty brand or a water brand, whatever brand it is, will look differently or market itself differently depending on where it is, even in the same country. Soweto and Sandton are totally in the same country, but you would market things differently if you're taking it to a Sandton, if you're taking it to Limpopo, if you're taking it to Soweto as well. And if you would notice the year of the election, if you looked at a billboard from any political party, you will see how they localize their language depending on where they are. If you find the same, it could be saying the same thing. Same political party billboard in Limpopo will sound different in KZN, will sound different in Western Cape, will sound different in Bloemfontein, etc. And so localizing content, but also the psychology of people is very different. And you have to figure out, who are these people? Who are the people I'm speaking to? Who are the people who I'm trying to sell to? And as a brand, like I said, I think the cornerstone of building a successful brand starts with knowing who you're selling to. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and this is also true for myself when I started my first business in 2014, is that you start your business with so much passion, and like young people have such beautiful passion. I love it for them. And you end up starting a business because you love your idea and you're so passionate about your idea. And sometimes when I speak to SMEs or entrepreneurs, it breaks my heart to tell them that your business has nothing to do with you. Your brand has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the people who you're trying to solve the problem for. So with that, the first lesson in successfully branding your business is being able to speak the problem back to the person you're solving it to. And just like psychology, if you're sitting at a room somewhere, and not even a room, you go to a psychologist, you go to a counselor, you feel like that session was successful if the psychologist is able to speak the problem back to you. And oftentimes they don't even give you the solution of what your problem or your life problems are. Oftentimes what they're actually doing is just speaking the problem back to you so you can try and find the solution for yourself. It is the exact same thing when it comes to branding. Branding in itself is not what you can touch and feel, but rather it is a perception. What do you think about me when I'm not in the room? What do you say about me when I'm not in the room? And in terms of building that perception, you need to be able to speak the problem back to the person you're solving it to. So if you are selling water bottles, you need to be speaking about the problem you're solving, which is something that Nomzamo mentioned as well in terms of starting with why. I'm not selling the most wonderful water on earth. I'm actually just quenching your thirst. That's it. But the more I can speak the problem back to you, it's almost like I know you as a person. And knowing a person, something that Steve mentioned earlier when he was buying the solar panels for his house, it wasn't necessarily because he's trying to run away from Eskom because of load shedding, but they tried to understand the problem, speak the problem back to him. And in that way, that's the only way you can convince someone to kind of buy from you. So for me, the main thing in terms of building your brand successfully and attracting people to your brand, it's knowing who those people are and knowing your audience. I can sing the song until I'm blue in the face. If you don't know who you're selling to, it is very likely that you will not sell. And it's very likely that you won't make a profit from your selling. Knowing who you're selling to, knowing your audience is honestly the cornerstone of any branding and marketing endeavors in your business, big or small. And one thing that I like speaking about when I speak about the difference between marketing and branding, because, you know, a lot of people, I think, especially if you are not necessarily familiar with branding terms or marketing terms, but you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build a business, how I like to explain the difference between marketing and branding is like marketing is like asking someone out, and branding is the reason why they say yes or no. And marketing is the action of, hey, listen, I can do this for you. I can buy you a G-Wagon. I can, I can solve your problems. I can do that. Branding is the reason they say yes, depending on who the recipient is in essence. If I'm looking for someone who's tall, dark, and handsome, if that person is tall, dark, and handsome, and if they presented themselves in a way that my perception will accept them, I will say yes. But if it's the opposite, I will say no. So marketing is like asking someone out if you're trying to figure out the difference between the two. And branding is the reason they will say yes or no, which is very important for you as an entrepreneur, for you as a business owner and as a brand manager, wherever, as a marketing manager, anyway, to understand the reason between the two. But also, in order to have the psychology to attract, you have to know what the other person is looking for. And it might sound manipulative in a way, but honestly, if you're trying to shape perception, there is some manipulation that happens in there as well. And if you are, if we're taking this picture in essence, and I'm saying the branding is the reason they say yes or no. If I know the person who I'm asking out likes flowers, and I know they like when someone is dressed in a particular way, they know they like the color red, they like when I speak in this kind of way, you change how you look in order to shape their perception. And that's why I say that branding has nothing to do with you. Your business had nothing to do with you. Your product has nothing to do with you, but it's got everything to do with the problem that you're solving and being able to speak the problem back to the person you're solving it to. If your business is not solving a problem, if your brand is not solving a problem, even if it's an aesthetic problem, even if it's not a need, it's a problem nonetheless. You should be able to articulate that problem back to the person who you're solving it to as well. And that's the most important thing. And once you figure out the psychology of who you're trying to attract, and you know the audience of the people who you are trying to attract as well, obviously it is important for you to now take all of that and try and localize the content as well. A brand that I absolutely love across the continent, my word, it is MTN. You will travel to different parts of this continent, travel to in Ivory Coast, Rwanda, Nigeria, and also in South Africa. And you realize that it is the same brand, but you can recognize it from your home country, but see how they've localized the content in the way that the people in that country or city will be able to understand. Every time I travel somewhere else, I honestly look forward to seeing the MTN, whatever MTN billboard that they may have up. And I think they have fully understood how it is like to localize content, even though you're selling the same thing. But one thing that I absolutely love as well from a brand that Nomzamo also mentioned, Nando's, is how Nando's as a brand, very, very, not, I don't want to say risky, but very bold and brave in how they do their marketing. But one thing I absolutely love is how consistent they are in their branding as well. I remember walking into a Nando's in Chicago and I felt like, oh, shucks, did I teleport to South Africa again? Because the experience is so similar. The decor is so similar. But though the menu, they've changed it for the taste buds of the locals there, which is what localizing content is. And localizing content might also mean localizing your product in certain instances. But I was so surprised when I walked in there because it felt like I just walked into the Nando's at the Winnie Mandela Drive. It felt like, did I just go back home for a minute? But then when you look at the menu, you're like, oh, okay, wait, I'm not home. They put pineapples in the burger. That is not a South African thing. So it's when it comes to localizing content, again, the cornerstone of being able to do this is knowing who you're trying to localize it for, which also goes into language, which goes into the kind of pictures you will use. It literally seeps into every part of your business when you're trying to localize it. But localizing content, like I said, goes back to knowing who you're trying to localize it for. If you don't know who the people are, who you are serving, localizing content for you in any way, shape, or form when it comes to whether it's digital or it's online or offline, it'll be difficult for you if you do not know who your audience is in that case. And it just kind of 4 things that I'd want you to kind of remember as I just kind of close off is if you want to build a locally attractive brand, there are 4 things. And the first one is the one that I will, like I said, I will sing this to the top of my lungs until I'm blue in the face. Know your people. If you don't know the people who you're trying to serve, it is not likely that you'll be able to solve their problem. If you don't know them, you won't be able to solve their problem. Understand their habits, their language, their emotions, their buying behaviors. Like what propels them to make a certain buying decision? Is it because there is load shedding, you need solar, or is it because actually I want to be more conscious, and I want to be a conscious consumer in how I consume energy as well, and making alternative, cleaner energy. You know, your motivations are different, but if you don't know that, you won't be able to solve the problem that way. Speak their language, and this doesn't only mean when it comes to either speak Xhosa or Zulu or Venda, etc., but also using words, imagery, cultural nuances. There are certain things that aren't necessarily a language tweak, but a emotive kind of tweak. You tweak certain things depending on how the locals do it in that way. And when it comes to the South African point of view, South Africa is very diverse as a country. And you cannot, there's no one size fits all when it comes to marketing in South Africa, because when you go to one province, it's different to the other. When you go to one city, it's different to the other. So understand the locals there in order for you to be able to speak their language. Be seen where they are as well. I think when it comes to branding in any point, you have to go where they are. And I know when it comes to one thing that I do with a lot of my clients is in understanding, doing a customer discovery, understanding who the people are, who you're talking to. You understand where they spend their time offline and online. If you know that, for me, if I'm your consumer and you know I spend my time 100% at home, and maybe online I spend my time on TikTok and perhaps on Pinterest, you have to meet me where I am. Don't force me to come to where you are. If you're saying, no, I'm just going to do Instagram because I understand it and it's easier for me, you can't expect for me as your consumer to come to where you are, but you need to meet me where I am. If I'm on TikTok, meet me there. If I'm on Pinterest, meet me there. And most of the time, I'm not the only one who you will meet there. You'll meet me and other equivalents of me who are in your target audience as well. And the last thing is stay consistent, which is something that, like I said, in the MTN example, they've stayed consistent in terms of how they look as well. The minute you see that tint of yellow, it's almost like you know it's MTN. The minute you see the tint of like turquoise blue and somewhat, you know it's Tiffany. There are certain colors that are kind of mixed into who a brand is, that the minute you see the color, you can automatically identify who they are in that case. And I will just end it there in terms of just the psychology of building a brand, the psychology as well of attracting people to your brand is meeting them where they are. Just find where they are, know them as well. I can tell you, I will say this till I'm blue in the face again. Know the people who you're selling to, but also know how to articulate the problem that you are solving to that person so that they can feel like they know you, and eventually they can make you money, because at the end of the day, as much as you're solving a problem, you are in business in order to make a profit. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amanda. That was great. And I love how you were integrating from what Steve said to what Nomzamo said, just to show that there is a link to branding, to marketing, and to communications. Just a few highlights from what you shared with us. People are central to your brand. The cornerstone of branding is people. Understand people, know who you want to attract, know who you are localizing for. It's all about who, which speaks to the people, and a brand that doesn't know who it's selling to won't see profits. Your business and brand has nothing to do with you. I think that kind of is very touchy because you kind of feel that it's about me. I'm building this thing. It's about the people and about the problem you're solving for the people. Your brand is a problem solver. And just the 4 points that you shared with us in building how to build a locally attractive brand. Know your people, very, very important. Speak their language, and not necessarily in terms of a language that you speak, but knowing what nuances speak to them. Be seen where they are. I think that's also very important. And stay consistent. I learned from what you're saying, be seen where they are. So when I started out, I was just like, oh, I'm only on Instagram and I've got the most followers on Instagram. But then I realized I'm missing out on people on other social platforms. So I need to bring that in as well. So thank you so much for that. If you have any questions for our speakers, do share them in the Q&A tab, and we will get to them after our final speaker, who is Alicia Logan from Proudly South African. Alicia is the membership manager for Proudly South African. She is going to take us through a bit about Proudly South African and also how you can become a member and how to grow the buy local ecosystem. Alicia.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good day, colleagues. Good day to everyone on the call and to our esteemed speakers. Lovely to be in your presence today. Today, I just thought of taking you through, who Proudly South African is, what our mandate is in the local economy, and how our logo, being a registered trademark, is actually assisting brands to be recognized as local manufacturers in the South African and export markets. I just want to share my screen very quick. Okay. Sorry, it's just... Okay. Okay. All right. So Proudly South African is the country's national buy local campaign, and our mandate is to advocate for the public sector, the private sector, and the general consumer to make a local purchasing decision. As you can see on the screen, we are using four key criteria to guide us on our localization mission. So preferential procurement, education in the public sector. We really and truly feel that government, known as the public sector, has the buying power to ensure that jobs, products are purchased locally, that their procurement officials purchase from our local manufacturers, and this will then in turn sustain jobs and possibly grow jobs in the local economy. Consumer education in the private sector, procurement managers, buyers, and the entire supply chain to be educated on the importance of sourcing local. Consumer education for the general public, and I think that is what today's discussion is really about, is to educate the general consumer on how to make a local purchasing decision. And how they can do that is to look out for our logo, as I said, which is a registered trademark that confirms local content and denotes quality. And of course, we promote accessibility then of these products and services to the entire South African market in order to grow these businesses and ensure we localize and, as I said, buy local to create jobs. So just very, very quickly, what are some of the reasons that we need to localize? Localize our brands, localize our manufacturing facilities, localize our service offering. And, as both speakers before me alluded to, adapt our messaging for the local market. So localization is very important. And the reason it is important is really because we need to retain and create jobs in South Africa. South Africa has an unemployment rate that is really not ideal. It really, without looking at it from a negative perspective, but it really needs intervention. So in order to, assist with job creation, localization is essential. Skills development, making sure that South Africans are skilled especially for the manufacturing sector, is so important. How often have we heard we have a skill shortage of engineers in the country? That shouldn't be the case. We need to ensure that our graduates are skilled, that our employees in South Africa are skilled, so that we do not have to bring in, individuals from other countries to fill the skills gap. Economic development, of course, when you are able to retain and create jobs, you then develop the economy. Empowerment and improve living standards. South Africa, it's no secret, we come from, an era, a socio-political past that was never ideal. So now that we are in a democracy, it is so important for us to empower previously disadvantaged and, of course, empower women in business and other, BE criteria for empowerment. Once we improve, jobs and we are able to create jobs, we are able to create better living standards. As we create more manufacturing jobs and manufacturing facilities, we then develop the infrastructure in our country. And of course, the more we export than we import, we increase our GDP and we balance off the trade. So these are some of the reasons why Proudly South African is actively advocating for localization. It is a curtain call for us to be able to create jobs in our local economy and for us to improve the living standards of individuals in our country, and for us to balance off our trade so that we are more self-reliant than, reliant on other countries for everything from food to clothing to, to manufacturing equipment, etc. I thought what would be also very important for me to take you through. So Proudly South African is a membership-based campaign. We, in order for us to advocate for your company, you need to be a member of the campaign. And very quickly, I'll tell you why this is the situation. In order for us to advocate for a company, we need to make sure that you qualify for the 4 key criteria that allow you to become a member of the campaign. These 4 key criteria are local content, quality, fair labor practices, and environmental standards. Now, if your company wants to be, confirmed as a Proudly South African company, you need to make sure that you are a local manufacturer or service provider. The ideal for us would be 100% local manufacturer, but we are cognizant of the fact that, for certain products, you do need to import raw material from other countries. So with this in mind, we do allow our member companies to be at least 50% or more of your company must be, locally manufacturing. Quality. Our logo is a registered trademark that denotes quality and confirms local content. So it is imperative that every single product or every single company that wants Proudly South African membership must have their quality certification for all of their products. Now, if you look at the screen, you have Rick Coffee, you have Kit Kat, you have 2-Minute Noodles, you have Rush Nutrition, Superfoods, you have all of these FMCG companies that have the Proudly South African logo on their product. That is because they are, members to the campaign, but they have been confirmed for quality for every one of their products, which is a non-negotiable. Because if we give you the logo, we need to expect that whenever you sell a product to a consumer, whether it's a consumer product or a product for animals, that it's going to cause no harm to that person consuming it. Fair labor practices. Our tagline is buy local to create jobs. So it is so important that wherever we create jobs, whether directly or indirectly, that we create them in environments that abide by the fair labor practices of South Africa. We are not creating sweatshops where people are dehumanized. We are creating jobs in environments where it is, everyone is abiding by the labor practices of South Africa. Environmental standards, what you put, what you take out of the earth, we would hope that you put back. The circular economy is something that is so important. So if your company is manufacturing, it is important for you to at least abide by the general environmental standards of the country. Use of the logo. So one of the main benefits of being a Proudly South African member is that we allow you to use the logo. As I confirmed before, it is a registered trademark, and its function is really to confirm local content and to confirm that your business has the relevant quality, products or services. So the Proudly South African logo is how we educate the general consumer to make a local purchasing decision. We give the logo to our member companies. We say, use it on your products, use it on your services, and we will do the education. Our marketing team will really go out there and educate consumers to look out for this logo so that they are able to make a local purchasing decision. A lot of the times, when it comes to fashion, skincare, and fragrance, we see that the general consumer is always looking at international brands. So we are always, if you are keeping your eyes glued to all things Proudly South African and all things that we do, you will see fashion, skincare, and related products are always something that we are working with. We are really asking consumers, we are asking government officials, we are asking everybody that we can to make that local purchasing decision when it comes to fashion, skincare, and everything related to conventional products where consumers think, I will only be able to get a premium brand if it's international. So we're trying to not only create jobs by asking you to buy local, but we are also trying to shift perceptions because we want you to make those local purchasing decisions, not only because you are creating jobs, but because you are actually loving the products and appreciating local, production and manufacturing. I think one of our speakers spoke to Theo and his range of footwear, and there's so much of a shift now when you go to the mall. You see a lot more African brands, premium African fashion brands, premium sports equipment, premium sports apparel. So there is shifting of perception, and there is a shift also in purchasing decisions by consumers. I thought it was very important for us to also speak about some of the initiatives that Proudly South African is working on to ensure that local brands and local products make their way to buyers. So one of our initiatives is our MAP program. It is a MAP because it's Market Access Platform. And what MAP aims to do, it aims to have all our member companies be listed as suppliers, and then all of our the buyers are able to look at what our member companies manufacture, and they are able to buy from you. So it serves as a procurement platform whereby buyers are able to meet suppliers. And we really want to ensure that MAP takes off in a way whereby the buyers are able to see all of our member companies. They are able to see all of the amazing products that they manufacture, and they are able to procure from you. So it's really about private sector B2B initiatives. And the other thing is that on Monday and Tuesday next week, the 17th and 18th of March, we have our flagship event, the Buy Local Summit and Expo. And this is where we expose over 200 of our member companies and their brands to buyers, supply chain officials, procurement managers, the media, and government officials, as well as the general consumer. The reason we do this is because we want to expose your brand positively, but also we want buyers to be able to, we are matchmaking our member companies to buyers, and we want the buyers to be able to, in some way, offer you access to market opportunities. So Proudly South African is really there to take your brand to market, and we're doing this by matching you or matching your product to a specific buyer. I think in general, what from a membership perspective and from a Proudly South African perspective, we are saying use our logo on your products so that you are able to stand out as a local manufacturer and a local service provider. We are doing all that we can from a marketing and education perspective to ensure your brand gets enough exposure as a local, manufacturer. And we are also providing access to market opportunities so that more and more retail and wholesale shelves will be proudly South African brands. And as we walk into malls, we are now greeted by, your Makosa, your Drip, your and other South African, proudly South African brands. With that said, I just want to, just show you a little bit about some of the companies that are using, our logos, but also, sorry, colleagues, it just went into the video. I just want to get to one of our ads that we did called the halftime. This was during COVID, and I think the message is very clear that we are not, even in the toughest of economies, that we are not to forget about South Africa, the South African brands, some of the brands that are really, the world cannot live without, actually come from South Africa. So as long as we keep remembering who we are and what value we add to the rest of the world, I think we should be fine. So I want to play this ad and then just show you some of the brands that are, okay, okay. All of us say on all of local is okay. And then, colleagues, I just wanted to show I need to stop sharing before I do that. Sorry. So I just wanted to also show just some of the companies that, and the good use of the logo,
I think we should give Alicia some time just to get those companies that she wants to show us. But in the meantime, if there are any questions for our other speakers, please do share those. Amanda, there's someone who Tumelo wrote, local is prideful diversity. when you ask the question of what does local is lekker mean to people? Local is lekker is prideful diversity. I also just want to invite, Steve, Amanda, Nomzamo, just based on what everybody has said now. You've all had a chance, to share your insights with us. Alicia has also shared what Proudly South African is all about, who they're all about, and what their vision and objective is. But maybe if you have any, because we are leading to the close of our session, maybe as a summary of what you've shared and what you've taken out as the speakers as well, because there are other people that you also were able to listen to. And maybe that will also prompt some questions from our guests, to say, oh, actually, someone said this earlier and I had forgotten about that, and now I have a question around it. So I'd like to open the floor up to you as well, just as the speakers, to say that if there's any comments that you'd like to make based on what you had said, or maybe based on what the other speakers have said, we do welcome that you say that. Oh, Alicia's back.
Colleagues, I'm so sorry for that. And sorry, speaker, for just coming in while you were talking.
No problem, no problem.
What I was trying to do, and I got cut off, I was just trying to show some of the, the brands and the way in which they use our logo. So I'm hoping it works this time. Let's see. Are you able to see that?
Yes, we are.
All right. So I thought of just showing how, different brands, Sisley Brew, some of the Nestle portfolio, your Kit Kat, your Milo, your chocolates, your biscuits, your Portia M skincare, your coffees, all use the Proudly South African logo, and it's used very prominently to be able to, so that they know that consumers are then able to see that the brand is, or the product is manufactured locally, so that they can make that purchasing decision. So this is everything from, you'll notice, everything from skincare to also another brand that I think does this really well is so Hewlett's. So that is what Hewlett's does with our logo. They use it across all of their packaging, and it's very prominent right at the front of the packaging, to be able to confirm they're a proudly South African manufacturer and brand. So these are just some of the consumers, consumer-facing brands that use the Proudly South African logo. Recently, we have all of the, some of the vetted pharmaceutical companies that are using our logo on all their social media campaigns and all of their, their above the line and below the line marketing initiatives. If you are driving on the N1, M1, you'll also see CTM, Italtal with the huge logo on their billboards. So really, companies are really adopting the logo very nicely to be able to confirm that their brands are locally manufactured, and they are really, taking up the call to localize. So, Speaker, thank you for that. That is all from my side. And colleagues, apologies for that interruption. Thank you.
No problem. Alicia, please stay on video because I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Okay, just based on what you've shared with us and just knowing a bit more about Proudly South African now, I wanted to ask, is there like a threshold or what can I call it? Like a target number that Proudly South African wants to reach in terms of membership? You mentioned you have about 3,000 members. do you maybe want to this year to get to 3,500, or in the next 5 years, this is the goal? What is there that kind of target, or it's open?
So yes, there are targets. So let me say that. The targets, though, are not aggressive targets. And I'll tell you why. Like if you from a conventional sales background, you wouldn't think that they aggressive targets, but our membership joining to become a Proudly South African membership is a very compliance based membership uptake. So we are, we can't onboard 20,000 people in a year purely because we want to make sure that the companies that we advocate for are quality members that really manufacture locally. So they're not buying their product from China and repackaging it here. So they have to be properly vetted for local content. They have to meet the quality standards. So we will never give you our logo if you don't have ISO certification or test reports. If you do not have a proper facility for manufacturing, we will visit there. And if we see you bought the product from China and you're just making the boxes here, we will not give you the membership, no matter how big your warehouse is. So the process is not very, I wouldn't say, you can't just come here and get the logo. It's very compliant, and we want to make sure whoever we advocate for actually deserves us advocating for them. So yes, there is a target behind the scenes internally. We do have a target to meet, but we're not so much about the numbers, but we're more about quality over quantity.
Thank you for that. And you've actually answered the second question that I had for you, which was going to be, how do you did take us through those 4 steps, of local content, quality, and all that. But for me, it was then, what if you get all these people who want the logo? But I think the compliance part of it has made it clear for me, but I'm hoping that for other people as well, so that you know that just because you say you want to be a member, it's not going to happen automatically. And you must have all your ducks in a row, because we do want to be proud, Proudly South African. Yes, we do want to be proud of what is put out there. And for you also, as the brand Proudly South African, for people to associate quality and, the environmental standards and the local content with you. Thank you for that. So someone else, Amanda, has answered your question. To me, buying local is a sign of self-respect. And then there's a question here, or a comment from Boitumelo, that I'd just like to read. I'm not sure if it's specific to anyone in particular in terms of the speakers, but I hope that one of our speakers will be able to respond to her. Can I comment on brand positioning, time, and how important it is? Boitumelo says, I manufacture weight loss coffee. Example, Facebook doesn't do it for me. Instagram doesn't. But being on TikTok every morning, as well as updating my business WhatsApp in the morning, pushes my sales. I find my customers waiting for me. I lost weight from the coffee itself, and it's no longer about me. I'm here to encourage healthy lifestyle with a brand that has no toxins. Thank you for that, Boitumelo. I don't know if any of our speakers would like to just make a comment on what she said. I think Amanda was the one who made that point about where you are and finding people where you are. So Boitumelo was saying that she tried Facebook, it didn't work for her. She tried Instagram, it didn't work for her. But for her, TikTok and her business WhatsApp is what is working for her. So I'll just open up. Okay, wait, I think there's another. Okay, there's another comment from Usindi. She says, I'd like to verify my membership status with Proudly South African. Who do I talk to? So I think Alicia would be the person who will probably reach out to you, or one of her team members in the membership team. But Cindy is looking for her membership status to be verified. So I'd like to open it up to the speakers just to give their comments on, local is lekker means to them, from what our guests have also shared, and also from what our guests have asked, especially with Dumelo's points. Nomzamo.
Yes, hello. So I wanted to respond back on the social media of the weight loss tea, because I think that's a great, it's a great point, because so often brands want to be across platforms. So generally you start a business, you open up every channel that you have. So generally people just go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and they're like, great, I've done it. And they almost do it as a checkbox exercise because it's, the right thing to do, and you get to put these icons on, your website. So it's such a great point that you have now found your tribe or found your people, and tailored your content to speak to those people. So TikTok is a perfect example, because it's that short format content, it's that video content that you can really hone in on, whether it's music, whether it's the tone, whether it's the the feel of your brand, and brilliant that you're also using yourself as a brand ambassador to a certain degree, because people are able to relate to you and kind of seeing your weight loss journey and understanding that, like, I can relate to you as a woman, and I can relate to weight loss challenges. So I think that's actually great that you've tried and tested different platforms to then use that data and use that sort of the insights to say, TikTok works better for me, and these are the reasons. And I think that's the whole point of your brand, is to see what works and where are my people. So I love that example, and I think it's great.
Thank you, Nomzamo, for your response. I see Amanda wants to also make a comment there. Please go ahead.
Sure, this won't be a long-winded comment, but I think when it comes to on Bitubella's point as well, which is everything that she has trial and error and all of that. I think I want to comment on that, and just to say that brand building is trial and error. That sometimes you could put together a beautiful strategy, but how it is implemented is whether you'll know it's working or not. And brand building is also a very long process. Like, don't expect to have it all figured out in 2 weeks or have it all figured out in a year. It honestly is a process. It's not something that will be, you can't build a brand in just a year. It takes a long time. And I think there's a quote that says, you can build a reputation for 10 years, but it literally takes a second to break it. It's the same thing when it comes to branding. So it is a long process. It really is sometimes tedious at point, because you have to try certain things and figure out that they don't work. Try something else, figure out it doesn't work. Just the same thing as Dumelo did in terms of checking Facebook, that didn't work, Instagram didn't work, but TikTok is the one that worked at the end of the day. It is about trial and error. And I do agree with what someone said as well, in terms of sometimes when you do start your business, you want to just be everything. You want to be everything. You want to be everywhere. And sometimes you don't even have the resources to be everywhere. So don't force yourself to want to be everywhere. Find a platform that works for your audience and yourself, and then go with that, and then grow over time. I also think that when it comes to being in business, you really want to look like you have it all figured out, and it's okay not to have it all figured out. It really does take time. Brand building is not something that you can do in a day. It could take even 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So brand building is trial and error. Try, and then you'll see what works and what doesn't work. So thank you to Boitumelo for that question. Steve has a comment. Steve.
Hi there. I think it's more of a hi there. It's more of a general comment on this morning's webinar. I think in terms of the speakers we've had, in terms of the content that we've gone through, it's been absolutely amazing. It really has the different perspectives, the different angles that everybody has come from. And just from a personal point of view, you never ever stop learning when it comes to marketing, when it comes to branding. And really just thanks very much to Proudly SA for, I think, a very, very involving and interesting 2 hours. From my side, a really big thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. I don't know if we've got any more questions. We've got a few minutes until our webinar comes to an end.
Speaker, is it okay if I just come in quickly?
Sure.
Thank you so much. So I think, just following through from what Steve said, I mean, we had Steve speak, we had Nomzamo speak, we had Amanda speak, and also something that's so important, when you were speaking about their bios, I think also, and we're speaking about branding, they're also building their own personal brands, if I can say that, because the bios were phenomenal, and I think it came through in the presentations as well. So I think, a very important lesson to our member companies on the call, as much as you want to create your brand for the products that you manufacture or the services that you render to the country, also work on your personal brands, because we had 3 amazing speakers that have amazing personal brands as well. So that is just my little comment from today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it was yes, all the speakers actually spoke about how, tell your story as well, because Amanda and Nomzamo were saying that it's not necessarily about you, but you're also the person who's driving the brand. So knowing you and knowing your story and seeing that you're also a brand adjacent to your company brand is very important. So thank you for that, Alicia. We've actually come to the end of our session, but what I want to do is give 1 minute to each speaker, just as their closing remarks. Alicia has spoken to us about what her takeout from today is you're also a personal brand, so work on that as well. But I'd like to give Steve, Nomzamo, and Amanda just 1 minute as a round off of what their takeaways are from today's session. And I'll start with Steve. I'll go in the order that we started. So I'll start with Steve, I'll go to Nomzamo, I'll go to Amanda, and then we will close. Steve, your final thoughts, comments, and just your takeaways from today.
Right. Thank you very, very much. I must be honest, the gem for me from today was an interesting one. It was Amanda's comment. Marketing is the process of asking somebody for a date, but the branding is what gives you the yes or the no. And it sums it up. It really sums it up so beautifully. And I find in life, when you bring things down to almost a personal level, you can relate and you can understand far better. And today has, I think, just it cemented the power of the brand, but also the power that we have as South Africans in order to build and in order to grow great brands. And just thank you for the opportunity. Really, really amazing. Looking forward to the Proudly SA Summit next week, which I think is going to be another opportunity for us to just share ideas and thoughts and where our different companies are. And where we're going as South Africans, which is a very, very important role. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for your time and for your insights today. Nomzamo.
Yes, I think Steve also took mine. So mine was also, I also loved that, analogy of asking someone on a date and getting the yes or the no. But I think the thread for me really was the people are at the center of your brand. So everybody spoke about knowing your audience, knowing who your people are, speaking to them in a way that you can find them. So I think it just goes on to say that when you build your brand, think of who that person is. So think about that person or that audience. So people are at the center of your brand because you're trying to solve their problem. Something I did want to share with everyone was also, sometimes we think things are so difficult. So many people will say, oh, I've started a business, but I don't know how to put myself out there, or I don't know what to say on LinkedIn or on TikTok or on all these platforms. And I think, right now we live in such an amazing world that you can go onto the internet and find everything. So if you don't know how to design, there's all sorts of design tools. There's Canva, there's all these AI tools, there's a whole bunch of things in Vato, all these free assets and templates that you can access. If you don't know how to write a CV, or company profile, you can literally get templates, at the touch of your finger. So it's not as difficult anymore. So everything is available to you. If you don't know how to do numbers like me, if you don't know how to do your books, there's all these like softwares that make it so much easier for you to run your business, look at your books from an ops perspective. So there's so much at the tips of your hands. I think it's just to be curious enough to find it. So really put yourself out there. I think that's my message of today.
Thank you, Nomzamo. Amanda.
Thank you, Anela. I think, well, honestly, I share the sentiments of both the previous speakers. But thank you so much for having us. Also, it's truly been an honor to share thoughts, but also to learn as well. And it reminds me of a quote that says, the minute you think you know it all, you stop learning. And I think even for someone who has, 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years in experience, you're still kind of learning, because branding and marketing is an ever evolving industry. And even today, as much as I came as a speaker, but I also came as a student. So it's been great to kind of learn from Steve and Nomzamo as well. But just throughout the conversation in itself, it's been amazing. So I think my sentiment is also to everyone who is watching to never think they know it all, because that's when they'll stop learning. So I think them also coming to this webinar shows, or watching this webinar shows their intention to continue learning. I'm still learning, and I will encourage everyone to continue learning, especially when it comes to business. Everything changes all the time, and the minute you figure one thing out, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? So every time you keep learning, and which has been exciting for me as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Proudly South African for hosting these webinars. They are on an ongoing basis on different topics that will help your brand and help your business grow. Thank you. I do believe this was recorded, so it will be, and it was also streaming on other social platforms. So if you did maybe miss the beginning, or you missed the end, or you want to share it, you will be able to do that. Thank you. Keep buying local, buy local to create jobs. Thank you.